The alien warship Vorex Claw broke through the thin clouds above the planet Eden 7. It came like a dark knife in the sky, its metal skin covered with scars from 100 battles. Inside the command deck, lights glowed green against the black. Scales of the Vorex crew. Commander Kraft stood in the center, his long tail curling lazily as if this was nothing more than a routine patrol. His 4 eyes scanned the planet below, wide plains, rolling hills, fields of golden crops swaying in the wind. He smiled, or at least the Vorex version of a smile, which looked more like a predator baring its teeth. A farming world, Kraft said, his voice deep and rough. No defenses, no threat. Easy victory. Around him, the crew hissed in agreement. The humans on Eden 7 would soon be slaves of the Vorex Empire. In the crew pit, young Officer Ralek frowned at his display. His claws tapped the control panel nervously. "Commander, there's something strange," he said. "No com signals. No distress calls. No civilian chatter at all. The whole colony is silent." Kraft gave a short laugh. "Perhaps they are too afraid to speak. Good. That means they know their place." Ralek didn't answer. His eyes stayed on the screen. Too quiet. Much too quiet. In every invasion Ralek had studied, humans screamed and shouted for help the moment an enemy ship entered orbit. Here, there was only stillness. Far below, the colony looked peaceful. Small farmhouses stood in neat rows. Smoke curled gently from chimneys. Old tractors rolled across fields. A narrow dirt road cut through the heart of the settlement, leading to a small central square with a tall windmill. To the Vorex, it looked like a settlement from the past, something out of the humans' early history. No towers, no starports, no armored vehicles. Primitive, Kraft muttered with contempt. He turned to the weapons officer. "Prepare the landing teams. Stun weapons only. We'll keep them alive for labor." On the surface, in a wide wheat field on the outskirts of the colony, a lone human woman worked under the sun. She wore plain clothes and a broad hat to shield her from the light. Her hands moved slowly, gathering the crop, tying bundles with rough twine. She didn't look up until the shadow fell across her. The Vorex Claw's dropships cut through the clouds, their black hulls shining in the sunlight. They came down in formation, engines roaring. Dust whipped across the field as the first one passed overhead. The woman's face stayed calm. She rested the bundle of wheat on the ground and took off her hat. Her eyes followed the alien ships. "Let them come," she whispered. Back in the command deck, Kraft's mood was already turning to boredom. The humans weren't even trying to hide. His scanners showed them moving about slowly, almost lazily. "Pathetic," he said. "Ralek, ready the recording drones. This will be a short operation." The first landing 6 dropships touched down near the colony square. The hiss of hydraulic doors filled the air as Vorex soldiers stepped out, their armor black and curved like the shell of some deep-sea predator. Energy rifles gleamed in their hands. The human settlers froze in place. A few clutched each other. 1 or 2 backed away slowly. Most of them simply stood still, watching. "Sergeant." Vorex raised his weapon and barked an order in the Vorex language. "By decree of the Vorex Empire, this world is claimed. You will obey, or you will die." No one answered. The sergeant pointed at a group of men near the windmill. "Move them to the square." The soldiers marched forward, but something about the humans' eyes made Vorex uneasy. They didn't look terrified. They looked expectant. The first signs one of the soldiers passed by an old wooden cart loaded with farming tools. He glanced at the rusty spades and shovels, and then froze. The metal edges weren't rusted at all. They had been painted to look old. Before he could warn the others, the ground beneath the cart opened with a mechanical hiss. A barrel rose silently into the air, its dark muzzle pointing at the soldiers. "Ambush!" The soldier shouted, but it was too late. The cart's hidden weapon fired with a sharp crack. sending a blue pulse of energy into the nearest Vorex. His armor lit up and locked, freezing him in place before he collapsed. Panic erupted. The humans scattered, not away from the Vorex, but into positions around the square. Barn doors flew open, and small insect-shaped drones buzzed into the air, their wings whirring like a swarm of angry wasps. Krath's surprise on the ship. Krath's eyes widened as the feed from the ground turned chaotic. What is happening? Down there? The voice of Sergeant Vorek came through, harsh and broken by static. They have weapons, sir. Advanced weapons. Impossible, Krath snarled. That's a backwater colony. But his scanners were already showing the truth. Power surges, shield emissions, weapon signatures far beyond the tech level he expected. That the quiet Trup Ralek, still watching his console, felt his stomach twist. Commander, we've been tricked. This was never a simple farming world. He pointed to a set of readings. Underground power grids, hidden mech hangars, and shield generators buried in the hills. Kraft's tail lashed the air. All units, full attack, wipe them out. But even as he gave the order, the dropship started falling. Explosions bloomed in the sky, invisible. Railgun shots from somewhere on the ground were tearing through the Vorex craft before they could even turn. The woman in the field, back in her wheat field. The woman watched a dropship crash in the distance, a column of black smoke curling into the air. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver device. With a flick of her thumb, she opened a channel. Phase 1 complete, she said calmly. Begin the harvest. From that moment on, the battle for Eden 7 was no longer an invasion. It was a trap, one the humans had set long before the Vorex claw had ever entered their sky. The black smoke of the first destroyed dropship still hung in the sky when the Vorex claw's second wave of soldiers landed. Their boots hit the ground with heavy thuds. The smell of burning metal and scorched wheat filled the air. Sergeant Vorek led the front squad, his armor now marked with dust and scratches from the unexpected resistance. He bared his teeth, scanning the narrow dirt street that ran through the heart of the human colony. The settlement still looked calm, too. Calm. The buildings stood in their neat rows. The windmill turned slowly in the breeze. A group of humans moved in the distance, carrying baskets as if the warships above them didn't exist. Push forward, Vorek barked. The Vorex soldiers advanced. In tight formation, rifles raised. A few humans in work clothes glanced at them, then started to run. Their footsteps pounded against the dirt road. They're fleeing, said Corporal Drex, his voice sharp in Vorek's comes. Let them. Vorek replied. We'll round them up later. Right now he stopped mid-sentence. Something about the way the humans ran was wrong. They weren't looking over their shoulders in fear. They weren't scattering in random directions. They were moving in a strange, precise pattern, leading the Vorex deeper into the colony. The narrow path the soldiers followed, boots crunching. On gravel, the path narrowed between two rows of tall grain silos. The shadows were deep here, and the air smelled faintly of oil. Vorek's instincts screamed at him. Stay sharp, he muttered from somewhere high above. There was a faint clicking sound, then another. What's that? Drex asked. Snipers? Another soldier guessed before Vorek could answer. The ground beneath them shifted. Heavy. Metal plates slammed upward from hidden slots in the dirt road, sealing off the path behind them. More plates dropped from above, blocking the way forward. The Vorex squad was trapped in a metal corridor barely wide enough to turn in. The trap. Closest from vents in the silos, small drones poured out, black and silver, no bigger than a human's hand. Their wings beat so fast they hummed like a swarm of bees. The first drone darted toward Drex and clamped onto his helmet. Get it off! He roared, clawing at it. But the drone released a bright pulse of electricity that dropped him instantly. The swarm moved like water, flowing over armor joints, sliding into rifle barrels, jamming triggers. Vorek's weapons went dead in seconds. Vorek swung his blade, slicing one drone in half, but 3 more replaced it. Overhead, hidden speakers came to life. A human voice, calm and cold, filled the corridor. "Welcome to Eden 7. Please enjoy your stay." Back on the Vorek's claw, Commander Krath slammed his fist against the arm of his chair. "Vorek, report!" Static hissed in his ear. Then a burst of noise, shouts, gunfire, the high-pitched whine of drones, before the signal cut off completely. "Commander," Ralek said, his voice tense, "the humans are forcing our troops into kill zones. They know our tactics." Krath's eyes narrowed. "Enough games. Prepare artillery support." But when the gunnery officer tried to target the colony, the targeting reticles blinked red. "Shields, sir. They've raised a planetary defense barrier. We can't get a lock." Krath's tail lashed angrily. This was no random farm world. This was a fortress in disguise. The farm defenses in the colony square. The humans moved with a kind of casual precision. Farmers in dusty clothes pulled hidden levers inside water troughs and feed barrels. From beneath the cobblestones, gun turrets rose silently. The windmill's wooden blades folded inward, revealing a high-powered RAILGUN. Children carried baskets into the church, but inside, the church was a command center, its walls lined with screens and weapons racks. Old men who had been sitting on porches moments before now strapped on combat armor, the faded insignia of ancient human military units still visible on their shoulders. The running battle Vorek's surviving soldiers finally broke free of the trap by blasting through the side of a silo. They stumbled into a wide street lined with barns. It seemed empty until the barn doors swung open and a wave of human fighters poured out. Some wore combat exosuits, their steps heavy enough to shake the ground. Others carried compact rifles that hissed with blue energy. The Voreks fired wildly, but their shots bounced off the exosuit armor. The humans advanced steadily, their fire precise and deadly. One Vorek soldier tried to retreat toward the dropships, but the ground beneath him exploded. Hidden mines sent shrapnel tearing through his armor. In the wheat fields far from the square, the woman from Part 1 walked calmly between rows of tall wheat. Through her earpiece, she heard the sounds of the battle, the panic in Vorek's voices, the sharp commands of her own fighters. She paused beside a scarecrow. Its straw arms were stretched wide, its head a rough sack. With one motion, she pulled the sack away, revealing a sensor dish. She adjusted it slightly. "Dropships 3 and 4 are retreating," a voice reported in her ear. "Not for long," she replied. From hidden pits across the fields, automated cannons rose and locked onto the fleeing ships. The cannons fired, and 2 more columns of smoke rose into the sky. Krath's frustration on the Vorek's claw. Krath's claws dug into the metal floor. "Send the heavy mechs. Burn that colony to the ground." "Sir," Ralek said carefully, "if we lose the mechs too, do it." Krath snapped. Heavy metal in the streets, 2 Vorek's war mechs, each as tall as a 3-story building, dropped from orbit in blazing descent pods. They landed with bone-shaking impact, their legs crushing anything beneath them. Each mech's chest opened, revealing twin plasma cannons. The humans seemed to pause. For a moment, Krath thought the battle might finally turn. Then from the side streets, 3 old farming vehicles rolled forward, but these were no ordinary tractors. Their tires were thick with armor plating. Their engines growled with the power of heavy combat machines. Panels on their sides slid open, revealing missile pods. The tractors fired, and 1 Vorek's mech went down in a storm of fire. The second mech turned to fight, but the windmill railgun struck it clean through the torso, dropping it like a puppet with its strings cut. Vorek's last stand. Vorek's cums were filled with static and screams. His squad was down to half strength, their armor battered and smoking. He looked around at the burning colony square. This was no victory. This was a slaughter, and not of the humans. "Fall back," he roared. "Back to the landing zone." But the landing zone was gone. Where the dropships had stood, there was now only a smoking crater, the invisible hunters. As night began to fall over Eden 7, the Vorex soldiers still alive were hunted through the streets. Human fighters moved like shadows, using silent weapons that cut through armor without a sound. One by one, the Vorex fell. And somewhere in the darkness, the calm human voice spoke again through captured comm channels. "You came here thinking we were weak. You will leave here knowing we are not." The sun dipped below the horizon of Eden 7, painting the fields in deep orange light. The windmill railgun still glowed faintly from its last shot. Smoke curled from the burning wrecks of Vorex mechs, dropships, and fallen soldiers. For the first time in hours, there was silence, but it wasn't peace. It was the silence of predators waiting for the next strike. Commander Krath stood on the bridge of the Vorex Claw, staring at the tactical display. Half his ground forces were gone. The rest were scattered and fighting for survival. He had invaded dozens of worlds before. This was supposed to be simple. Take the humans alive, strip the planet of resources, move on. Instead, his easy target had turned into a nightmare. Inside the colony command center, beneath the small stone church in the colony square, a hidden staircase led to a war room. Its walls were covered in screens, glowing maps, and holograms. The air was thick with the scent of machine oil and the faint hum of power generators. The human commander, the woman from the wheat fields, stood at the central table. Her name was Captain Mara Vos, a veteran of the human expansion wars. Around her were men and women who, to the outside galaxy, looked like simple farmers. In truth, they were decorated soldiers, engineers, and tacticians from battles the Vorex had never even studied. "Phase 2 begins now," Mara said. "We take the fight to them." The plan. Mara's finger traced a line on the holographic display, from the colony square, through the hills, and up to the mountains in the north. There, hidden deep in stone caverns, rested weapons and machines the humans had hidden for decades. Plan was simple. Use the colony's defenses to keep the Vorex occupied. Then strike the Vorex Claw in orbit before it could call for more reinforcements. The awakening of the giants in the mountain caves. Old battle mechs stood in the dark, their frames covered in dust and vines. Some were relics from wars fought a century ago. Others were prototypes never used in open battle. As the humans approached, lights flickered on in the mech's eyes. Engines rumbled like distant thunder. One by one, the giants stepped forward, shaking the ground. From the colony's outskirts, anti-gravity tanks rolled out of barns disguised as grain storage. Farmers climbed into their cockpits, faces calm and focused. This was no longer defense. This was war. The first push at the edge of the colony. A squad of Vorex soldiers regrouped near the wreckage of a dropship. They were exhausted, armor dented, ammo running low. They didn't see the humans until it was too late. Out of the mist came the towering shapes of the battle mechs. Their footsteps shook the earth. The Vorex opened fire, but their plasma shots bounced harmlessly off thick armor. In return, the mechs fired streams of blue energy that tore through Vorex lines like paper. The soldiers tried to retreat, but drones swarmed overhead, cutting off escape routes. Krath's realization on the Vorex Claw. Rowling watched the live feed from the battlefield. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "Commander, they're not farmers at all. This is a veteran garrison." Krath bared his teeth. "Then we crush them before they reach us." But even as he spoke, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple launches from the planet's surface. Unknown craft heading toward us. The hidden fleet from the mountain hangars, small but heavily armed human ships blasted into the sky. They were old corvettes and gunships, but every one of them carried upgraded weapons scavenged from past battles. The ships punched through the thin clouds, engines flaring bright. Their target was not the scattered Vorex on the ground. It Was the Vorax Claw in orbit? Space turns dangerous. The Vorax Claw turned its main guns toward the incoming human ships. Plasma bolts streaked across the void, lighting up the black sky. But the human pilots were veterans of asteroid belt skirmishes and fleet ambushes. They moved like shadows between the stars, weaving through enemy fire. The first volley from the humans' rail cannons smashed into the Vorax Claw's forward shields, making the entire ship shudder. On the ground, Mara's advance while the human fleet distracted Krath in orbit. Mara led her ground forces toward the Vorax's secondary landing zone. The landing zone was a field of scorched earth surrounded by defensive turrets, but the humans had mapped every turret's blind spot months ago. Using a mix of mechs and infantry, they cut through the defenses with surgical precision. In less than 10 minutes, the landing zone was theirs. From there, they launched boarding shuttles toward the Vorax Claw. Boarding the beast inside one of the shuttles, Mara stood in full combat armor. The hum of the engines was steady, but the air was thick with tension. Her soldiers checked their weapons in silence. They knew what awaited them. Close quarters fighting against one of the deadliest species in the galaxy. As the shuttle neared the Vorax Claw, magnetic clamps engaged. The boarding doors blew open, and the humans poured inside. The corridors of war, the Vorax Claw's hallways were tall and curved, lit in sickly green. The air was filled with the metallic tang of alien atmosphere. The Vorax fought hard, their claws and energy blades flashing in the dim light. But the humans were faster, more coordinated. Every squad moved with the silent precision of soldiers who had trained together for years. In less than 15 minutes, the humans controlled 3 decks of the ship. The final push to the bridge. Mara's team advanced toward the command deck. Blaster fire lit the corridor in bursts of red and blue. The floor shook as the ship's shields took another hit from the battle outside. At the blast doors to the bridge, Mara planted a shaped charge. The explosion tore the doors inward, revealing Krath and his officers. Krath's 4 eyes locked on Mara. He stepped forward, claws out. "You dare board my ship?" Mara didn't flinch. "This isn't your ship anymore." The 2 leaders clashed in the center of the bridge. Krath's strength was immense, his claws slicing through armor plating. But Mara moved with deadly precision. Her strikes aimed at weak points in his armor. Around them, human and Vorax soldiers fought in brutal close combat. Screens shattered, consoles sparked, and the air filled with smoke. Finally, Mara drove her blade into the joint of Krath's chest armor. The alien roared in pain and fell to one knee. The order with the bridge secured, Mara turned to her communications officer. "Send the signal to all Vorax forces on the ground. Stand down or be destroyed." The message was broadcast in every Vorax frequency. Those still fighting heard the voice of their commander's defeat and slowly laid down their weapons. Victory, but not the end. The humans had taken the Vorax Claw. From orbit, they could see the fires still burning on Eden 7, but the battle was over. Mara looked out at the stars. She knew this was only the beginning. The Vorax Empire would not forget this humiliation, but they would remember it and fear it. "We're not farmers," she said quietly. "We're the storm you never see coming." The captured Vorax Claw drifted silently in orbit above Eden 7, its black hull scarred by battle and its systems barely holding together. Inside the command bridge, the atmosphere was tense and heavy. Human engineers moved quickly, disabling alien weapons and repairing systems. Captain Mara Voss stood over the tactical console, her eyes sharp. The battle was far from over. "Commander," her communications officer said, "incoming Vorax reinforcements are approaching the system. Multiple warships detected in the asteroid belt." Mara's jaw tightened. The Vorax were sending more soldiers, more ships, but they were walking into a trap. The asteroid belt ambush far from the planet's surface. Massive Vorax warships sliced through the dense asteroid belt orbiting Eden 7. The massive rocks floated Silently, a dangerous maze of stone and shadow, unbeknownst to the Vorax fleet. Hidden beneath the surface of several large asteroids were deadly mines and ambush drones. A secret defense system the humans had planted long ago. As the Vorax ships advanced, the humans waited in hidden command stations spread across the planet. Suddenly, with no warning, a silent pulse radiated from the mines. One by one, the asteroids erupted in controlled explosions, sending shrapnel tearing into the Vorax ships. The enemy warships rocked violently. Explosions bloomed along their hulls as the mines shredded engines and weapon systems. Vorax. Panic in space on board the flagship of the reinforcements. Captain Kraft's second-in-command shouted orders as alarms blared. "We are under heavy fire. Pull back! Pull back!" The command was desperate, but it was too late. The asteroid belt was a killing ground. Mines continued detonating, and stealth drones launched from the planet darted between ships, slicing through shields and disabling engines with precision. Strikes. The humans' secret fleet orbiting Eden 7, a fleet of small, agile human ships moved with expert coordination, though small compared to the Vorax warships. These corvettes and gunships were heavily armed and fast, their pilots seasoned veterans. They darted through the asteroid belt, using the chaos to their advantage. The humans' weapons cut through the enemy shields, tearing holes in the once imposing Vorax vessels. On the surface, the next phase back on Eden 7's surface, Mara prepared her forces for the next stage of their plan. Using captured Vorax communication frequencies, the humans fed false information to the enemy forces still trapped. On the planet, the message was clear and devastating. Reinforcements destroyed. Surrender now, or be wiped out. The Vorax on the planet react, confused and isolated. The Vorax troops on Eden 7 found their communications cut and their hope fading. Commander Kraft's voice crackled through a scrambled transmission, trying to rally the troops. "We will break their trap. Hold your ground." But the humans were relentless. Guerrilla warfare and crushing pressure. Human infantry and mechs moved like shadows through the ruined colony. They hit the Vorax hard and fast, attacking supply lines, disabling communication relays, and forcing the enemy into smaller and smaller pockets. Every street, every barn, every field became a battleground. The hidden power of the colony, the humans. Secret weapons came into full view. Ancient, forgotten battle machines rumbled from underground bunkers. Energy shields flickered on, surrounding the human forces and making frontal assaults impossible. A final warning as the remaining Vorax forces faced destruction. Mara sent one last message. On every frequency, her voice rang out clearly. This planet was not your prize. It was your grave. Remember Eden-7. Tell your empire. Underestimating humanity will cost you everything. The aftermath. With the trap fully sprung and the enemy defeated, Mara stood quietly, looking at the stars. Eden 7 was safe, but the war was only beginning. The humans had revealed their strength, and now the galaxy would watch. The ruined sky of Eden 7 glowed faintly with the fires of battle. Smoke rose from shattered war machines, and broken dropships scattered across the fields and hills. The cries of distant skirmishes echoed in the night air. Captain Mara Voss stood at the edge of the colony square, her breath steady despite the chaos around her. Her eyes were fixed on the horizon where the remaining Vorax reinforcements scrambled to organize a defense. She felt no triumph. Not yet. This was only the beginning of a new war. The calm before the storm. Mara's soldiers moved carefully, checking weapons, tending to the wounded, and preparing for what would come next. The humans were no strangers to war. Every face bore scars, every body carried the weight of loss and determination. "We hold our ground here," Mara told her officers. "We wait for their next move, then we strike where they least expect." Inside the Vorax war camp, Commander Kraft was no longer on the Vorax Claw. After his defeat, he had taken refuge with the remaining forces on the planet. His armor was battered, his scales scratched. His 4 eyes burned with anger and frustration. "We were fools to think this was an easy prize," he growled. "These humans are not what we expected." His lieutenants nodded, battered but alive. A sudden alert suddenly. Krath's cum officer burst into the room. "Commander, sensors detect a small human fleet approaching from the asteroid belt." Krath's tail lashed in irritation. "They're attacking from orbit again. We must stop them." The unexpected strike back in orbit. A squadron of human corvettes and gunships closed in on the Vorax, fleet with deadly precision. They darted between the broken asteroids, their engines glowing bright against the blackness of space. The Vorax fleet fired back, plasma bolts lighting the void. But the humans weaved through the fire with practiced skill. The battle in space intensifies. The human ships launched a barrage of missiles, striking Vorax cruisers and frigates with pinpoint accuracy. One by one, enemy ships exploded in blinding flashes of light. The Vorax flagship shook violently as it took several direct hits. On the ground, Mara's plan unfolds. Mara moved her troops forward with careful precision. The Vorax troops on the ground were regrouping near an old military base hidden in the hills. Mara's forces surrounded the base, cutting off escape routes and communication lines. The final assault. The humans launched their attack in waves. Mechs stomped through the rocky terrain, firing plasma cannons and missile launchers. Infantry moved in quickly, using stealth and speed to take down the Vorax soldiers. The duel amid the battle. Mara faced Commander Krath once again. This time, the fight was brutal and personal. Krath swung his claws with deadly force, but Mara was faster, dodging and countering with precise strikes. The turning point with a final, well-placed blow. Mara disarmed Krath and forced him to his knees. The Vorax commander growled but knew the battle was lost. Victory and warning. Mara addressed the surviving Vorax soldiers. "You can leave this planet alive," she said. "Tell your empire that humanity is not weak. We will defend what is ours. We will fight back." The aftermath. As the stars shone above, Mara looked to the future. This victory was only the start. The war with the Vorax Empire would stretch across the galaxy. But for now, Eden 7 was safe, and humanity had shown its true strength. The stars shone cold and distant above Eden 7 as the last echoes of battle faded into silence. The colony lay battered but unbroken, its fields scorched and the scars of war visible from orbit. Yet the spirit of its people burned brighter than ever. Captain Mara Voss stood alone on a small hill overlooking the settlement. Her eyes scanned the dark sky, reflecting the flickering lights of ships both human and alien. The war was not over, but this battle was won. The message begins inside a makeshift command center. Mara prepared a transmission that would reach the farthest corners of the galaxy. She knew the Vorax Empire would soon hear the truth of their defeat. It was not just a loss of ships or soldiers. It was a warning. Her voice was calm but fierce as she spoke into the recorder. This was a farming colony, a place they thought easy to take. They called us weak. The truth revealed. The transmission cut between scenes of ruined battlefields, brave soldiers standing tall, and ancient battle mechs resting beneath the earth. We are not weak. We are survivors, warriors, defenders of our home. The Vorax reaction across the void. In the high council chambers of the Vorax Empire, the message played on massive holoscreens. The Vorax leaders watched in silence, their faces pale and grim. Commander Krath's defeat was a shock that echoed through their ranks. For the first time, the Empire understood the price of underestimating humanity. A new era dawns back on Eden 7. Mara gathered her commanders. Their faces were tired but proud. "We send this message so they know," she said. "Humanity will not bow. We will fight. We will win." The recorded message was broadcast on every open frequency the humans could reach. It spread across star systems, reaching allies and enemies alike. The galaxy listened. Hope and fearsome cheered for humanity's courage. Others in the Vorex Empire whispered of rebellion and revenge, preparing for what comes. Next, Mara turned back to the night sky. "We've made our mark," she said softly. "But the war is just beginning." The final scene, the camera pans out from Eden 7, showing the colony's resilience against the vast darkness of space. The last line echoes, "They came for an easy victory," and left with a warning carved in fear.